Commander Jake Martinez stood at the window of his quarters aboard the USS Horizon, watching the stars drift by as the ship moved through hyperspace. The message from Earth Command had arrived 3 days ago, and he still could not make sense of it. A cultural exchange meeting with alien diplomats at the edge of human space. It sounded simple enough, but something about the whole situation felt wrong. Dr. Lisa Harper knocked on his door and entered without waiting for permission. She carried a datapad in her hands and wore the expression she always had when she discovered something that bothered her. Lisa had been studying alien species for 15 years, and Jake had learned to trust her instincts about these things. "Commander, we need to talk about this mission," Lisa said, setting the datapad on his desk. "I have been going through the diplomatic files, and there is something very strange about this request." Jake turned from the window and sat down across from her. "Strange how?" Lisa activated the datapad, and a three-dimensional map appeared above its surface. The map showed their local section of the galaxy, with different colors marking the territories of various alien civilizations. Human space appeared as a blue section near the edge of the map. "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to the human territory. "Every alien species we know has detailed star charts that extend thousands of light years in every direction. The Zephyrians have mapped stellar formations all the way to the galactic core. The Karathi have navigation data for systems they have never even visited. But look what happens when their maps reach human space." She adjusted the display, and Jake could see what she meant. The alien star chart simply stopped at the borders of human territory. Where detailed maps should continue, there were only blank spaces marked with symbols that the translation software rendered as unknown region or restricted zone. "Maybe they just have not explored this area yet," Jake suggested, though he knew it sounded weak even as he said it. Lisa shook her head. "That is what I thought at first. But Commander, some of these civilizations have had spaceflight for thousands of years. They have explored regions of space that are much more distant and dangerous than our little corner of the galaxy. Why would they ignore an entire section of space that borders their own territories?" Jake studied the map more carefully. She was right. The blank areas were not small gaps in knowledge. They were systematic exclusions that covered not just human-controlled systems, but a much larger region of space that extended far beyond where humans had ever traveled. "Have you asked any of the alien diplomats about this?" Jake asked. "That is the strangest part," Lisa replied. "Every time I bring up the subject of mapping or navigation near human space, they change the topic. The Karathi ambassador actually left the room when I asked him about stellar cartography in this region. It is like they are afraid to even discuss it." Jake stood up and began pacing around the small room. In his 20 years of military service, he had learned that when something did not make sense, it usually meant important information was being hidden. The problem was figuring out what that information might be and why it was being kept secret. "What? Do we know about the aliens we are supposed to meet?" he asked. Lisa consulted her datapad again. "The delegation is led by Ambassador Kethvar of the Zephyrian Republic. They are one of the oldest spacefaring civilizations we know about. Their records go back over 8,000 years. The ambassador himself is considered one of their most experienced diplomats. And they specifically requested to meet at the edge of human space?" "Yes, at the Kepler station. It is the furthest human outpost in that direction. The strange thing is they could have chosen any location for this cultural exchange. Most diplomatic meetings happen at neutral space stations or on established trade routes. Why pick a remote station on the edge of nowhere?" Before Jake could answer, the ship's communication system activated. Lieutenant Sam Parker's voice came through the speakers. "Commander Martinez, please report to the communications center. We are receiving some unusual signals." Jake and Lisa made their way through the ship's corridors to the communications center. Lieutenant Parker was sitting at his station, wearing headphones and adjusting various controls on his console. He looked up when they entered. "Commander, I have been monitoring standard communication channels as we approach the meeting point," Sam said. "Most of the traffic is normal merchant shipping and routine military communications. But there is something else." He activated the main speakers, and a low humming sound filled the room. It was not quite music and not quite noise, but something in between that seemed to pulse with a rhythm that was almost familiar. "What is that?" Lisa asked. That is what I would like to know, Sam replied. It is coming from deep inside human territory, from a region where we do not have any major installations. The signal is very faint, but it is definitely artificial. The pattern is too regular to be natural. Jake listened to the humming sound for several minutes. There was something about it that made him uncomfortable, though he could not explain why. It reminded him of something he had heard before, but he could not remember what. How long has this signal been transmitting? He asked. That is the interesting part, Sam said. According to my analysis, this signal has been broadcasting continuously for at least several decades, maybe longer. But our navigation databases do not show any human installations in that area. Lisa leaned over Sam's shoulder to look at his readings. Could it be some kind of automated beacon? Maybe, Sam said. But if it is using technology I do not recognize. The power source would have to be enormous to broadcast continuously for that long. Jake studied the signal data on Sam's screens. The source appeared to be located several days' travel deeper into human territory, far beyond the established shipping, routes, and colonies. It was in a region of space that was officially classified as unexplored, though Jake knew that Earth Command had survey teams that operated in classified areas. Keep monitoring that signal, he told Sam. Let me know if anything changes. As they left the communication center, Lisa walked beside him in silence for several minutes. Finally, she spoke. Commander, I think there is something we are not being told about this mission. The blank maps, the strange meeting location, and now mysterious signals from empty space. It all seems connected somehow. Jake nodded. He had been thinking the same thing. When we reach Kepler Station, I want you to be very careful about what questions you ask the Zephyrian ambassador. If they are hiding something about this region of space, pushing too hard might cause more problems than it solves. And if they are not hiding anything, if there is some other explanation for all of this. Jake stopped walking and looked at her. Then we will find out what that explanation is. But Lisa, in my experience, when multiple strange things happen at the same time, they are usually connected. And when people refuse to talk about something, it is usually because they have a very good reason to keep it secret. They reached the bridge of the USS Horizon just as the ship dropped out of hyperspace. Through the main viewing screen, they could see Kepler Station in the distance, a small collection of modules and docking bays orbiting a red dwarf star. It looked peaceful and routine, just another remote outpost on the edge of human civilization. But Jake could not shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. The question was whether that discovery would be something they wanted to know, or something they would wish they had never learned. The USS Horizon began its approach to Kepler Station, carrying its crew toward answers they were not yet ready to understand. The meeting with Ambassador Kethavar did not go as anyone expected. The Zephyrian diplomat was tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the artificial light of Kepler Station's conference room. His large dark eyes moved constantly, as if he was watching for threats that only he could see. Commander Jake Martinez sat across the table from the ambassador, with Dr. Lisa Harper beside him taking notes. The cultural exchange was supposed to be a simple discussion about trade routes and scientific cooperation. Instead, it felt more like an interrogation where nobody was willing to ask the real questions. Your species has made remarkable progress in such a short time, Ambassador Kethavar said, his voice carrying the musical quality that all Zephyrians had when they spoke human languages. From your first spaceflight to establishing colonies across multiple systems in less than 2 centuries, most civilizations take much longer to expand so far. We have been fortunate, Jake replied carefully. Our expansion has been guided by detailed surveys and mapping missions. The ambassador's eyes stopped moving for a moment and focused directly on Jake. Yes, mapping. A very important activity for any spacefaring species. Accurate charts are essential for safe navigation. Lisa looked up from her notes. Speaking of mapping, Ambassador, we have noticed something interesting about Zephyrian star charts. Your navigation databases are incredibly detailed for most regions of the galaxy, but they seem to have gaps near human territory. The change in the ambassador was immediate and dramatic. His blue skin became several shades paler and his breathing became rapid and shallow. The translation device on the table registered elevated stress patterns in his voice when he spoke. "I am not qualified to discuss stellar cartography," HFY said quickly. "Such matters are handled by our navigation specialists. But surely you must have some knowledge about the regions near your own territory," Lisa continued. "Our scientists are very interested in learning about unexplored areas where we might conduct joint research missions." Ambassador HFY stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the metal floor. "This meeting is concluded. I must return to my ship immediately." He moved toward the door with quick, nervous steps. Just before leaving, he turned back to face them. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Commander Martinez, some boundaries exist for the protection of those who respect them. Your species would be wise to remember this." With that, the ambassador left the room, leaving Jake and Lisa sitting alone at the conference table. They could hear his footsteps echoing in the corridor outside, moving faster than any diplomatic protocol would normally allow. "Well, that was enlightening," Lisa said after several minutes of silence. Jake activated his communication device. "Lieutenant Parker, this is the commander. Are you still monitoring those signals from deep space?" Sam Parker's voice came through, clearly. "Yes, sir. If anything, they have gotten stronger since we arrived at the station. I have also detected some new activity." "What kind of activity?" "It looks like automated responses, Commander, as if something is reacting to our presence here. The signals are becoming more complex, with new patterns I have not seen before." Jake looked at Lisa, who was already gathering her equipment. "We are returning to the ship. Keep monitoring everything and prepare a detailed analysis for when we get back." As they made their way back to the USS Horizon, Jake made a decision that he knew would probably end his career. Earth Command had been very specific about their orders: conduct the cultural exchange and return home immediately. They were not supposed to investigate anything or take any unauthorized actions, but Jake had not become a ship commander by following orders that did not make sense. The ambassador's reaction, the mysterious signals, and the gaps in alien star charts all pointed to something important happening in the region of space that humans called home. If there was a threat or an opportunity that Earth Command did not know about, he had a duty to investigate it. "Lisa, how long would it take to reach the source of those signals?" he asked as they boarded their shuttle. "According to Sam's readings, about 3 days at maximum speed. But Commander, our orders are to return to Earth immediately after the diplomatic meeting." "Our orders are to protect human interests," Jake replied. "If there is something in our territory that we do not know about, we need to find out what it is." 2 hours later, the USS Horizon left Kepler Station and headed deeper into human space. Jake had filed a mission report stating that they were investigating possible equipment malfunctions in the outer colonies. It was not exactly a lie, since they were investigating equipment that might not be working properly. He just had not mentioned that the equipment might not be human. Chief Petty Officer Amy Foster was their best navigation specialist, and Jake had brought her to the bridge to help plan their course. She was a small woman with sharp eyes who had spent her entire career studying stellar navigation and hyperspace routes. "Commander, I have been looking at the location of these signals," Amy said, pointing to the main display screen. "It is in a region that our charts mark as empty space. No stars, no planets, nothing that would support any kind of installation." "Could our charts be wrong?" Jake asked. "It is possible, but unlikely. This area was surveyed by 3 different exploration missions over the past 50 years. They all reported the same thing: empty space with no objects larger than small asteroids." Lisa joined them on the bridge, carrying her portable analysis equipment. "I have been thinking about what Ambassador HFY said. He mentioned boundaries that exist for protection. What if the signals are coming from some kind of defensive system?" "Defensive against what?" Jake asked. "I do not know. But think about it. Every alien civilization avoids this region of space. They will not even put it on their maps. What if there is something here that they are afraid of?" Sam Parker looked up from his communication station. "Commander, you should hear this." I have been analyzing the signal patterns more carefully, and I found something interesting. He activated the main speakers, and the humming sound filled the bridge again. But this time, he had filtered and enhanced it, so they could hear details that had been hidden before. Listen to the rhythm, Sam said. It is not random. There is a mathematical pattern hidden in the signal. Jake listened carefully. After several minutes, he began to hear what Sam meant. The humming rose and fell in a way that seemed almost like a heartbeat, but slower and more complex. It sounds almost like a code, Amy said. That is what I thought too, Sam replied. But if it is a code, it is not using any encryption method I recognize. The pattern is too organic, too natural. Lisa was studying the readings on her equipment. Sam, can you isolate the signal source more precisely? I want to know exactly where this is coming from. Sam worked at his controls for several minutes, fine-tuning his instruments and cross-referencing the data. Finally, he looked up with a puzzled expression. According to my readings, the signal is coming from inside a large asteroid field. But, Commander, the asteroid field should not be there. What do you mean? Jake asked. I mean that according to our navigation charts, that region of space is empty, but my sensors are detecting hundreds of large objects clustered together in a formation that looks almost artificial. Amy checked her own navigation systems and confirmed Sam's readings. He is right, Commander. Either our charts are completely wrong, or something has changed in that region since the last survey mission. Jake studied the sensor data on the main screen. The asteroid field was roughly spherical, with the objects arranged in a pattern that was too regular to be natural. At the center of the formation, the signals were strongest. How long until we reach the asteroid field? He asked Amy. At our current speed, about 18 hours. Good. I want continuous monitoring of those signals. If anything changes, I want to know about it immediately. As the USS Horizon continued deeper into human territory, none of them realized they were approaching something that had been waiting patiently for thousands of years. The signals they were following were not just random transmissions. They were a greeting, sent by guardians who had been watching human space since long before humans ever learned to build starships, and now finally someone was coming to visit. The asteroid field was like nothing any of them had ever seen before. As the USS Horizon approached the outer edge of the formation, the crew gathered on the bridge to watch the main viewing screen in amazed silence. Commander Jake Martinez had seen many strange things during his years in space, but this was different. The asteroids were not floating randomly as they should be. Instead, they were arranged in perfect geometric patterns, forming rings within rings that stretched for millions of kilometers in every direction. This is impossible, Chief Amy Foster whispered, checking her navigation instruments again. Natural asteroid fields do not form patterns like this. And Commander, look at the size of some of these objects. She was right. Most asteroids were small chunks of rock, maybe a few kilometers across at most. But the objects in this field were enormous. Some of them were the size of moons, and they had been carved and shaped into forms that were clearly artificial. Dr. Lisa Harper was running continuous scans with her scientific equipment. Commander, these asteroids are not natural rock formations. They are constructed objects made from materials I do not recognize. The technology involved in building something like this would be far beyond anything humans have ever developed. Lieutenant, Sam Parker looked up from his communication station with excitement in his voice. Commander, the signals are much stronger now, and there is something else. I am receiving responses to our approach. What kind of responses? Jake asked. It is like the asteroid field is talking to us. Every time we send out a navigation ping or sensor sweep, something in the field responds with a signal of its own. It is almost like it is trying to communicate. Jake made a decision that he knew was either very brave or very foolish. Take us deeper into the field. But go slowly and be ready to retreat if anything seems dangerous. As the USS Horizon moved between the massive constructed asteroids, the crew began to see details that made the mystery even deeper. The surfaces of the asteroids were covered with symbols and markings that looked almost familiar, but not quite like anything in human languages. Lisa, are you getting readings on what these symbols mean? Jake asked. The computer is trying to analyze them, but it is having trouble. The strange thing is, they seem to be related to human writing systems, but they are much older and more complex. It is like looking at the ancestor of all human languages. Amy Foster was monitoring their navigation systems when she noticed something that made her heart race. "Commander, we have a problem. According to my instruments, we are not alone in this asteroid field." "What do you mean?" "I mean there are other ships here. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. They are hidden inside the larger asteroids, but I can detect their power signatures." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Are they human ships?" "I do not think so, sir. The power signatures are unlike anything in our databases. But they are definitely artificial and they are definitely active." Sam Parker suddenly stood up from his station with excitement. "Commander, I am receiving a direct communication signal. It is coming from the center of the asteroid field, and it is in perfect English. Put it through the main speakers." A voice filled the bridge, clear and strong despite the vast distance of space. It was definitely human, but there was something about the accent and the way the words were pronounced that seemed very old. "Vessel from Earth, you are welcome here. We have been waiting a long time for your kind to find us. Please proceed to the Central Coordination Station. You will not be harmed." Jake looked around at his crew. They were all staring at the speakers with expressions of amazement and confusion. "This is Commander Jake Martinez of the Earth vessel USS Horizon. Who am I speaking with?" "I am Coordinator Alex Chen of the Deep Watch Fleet. We are the guardians of this region, as our ancestors have been for many thousands of years. You have many questions, Commander Martinez. We have answers, but they must be given in person." "Guardians of what region? And what ancestors are you talking about?" There was a pause before the voice responded. "Commander, your people on Earth know very little about the true history of humanity in space. What you call human territory is much larger and much older than your government realizes. Please follow the navigation beacon we are sending to your ship. There is much you need to learn." Amy Foster confirmed that they were receiving navigation data from somewhere in the center of the asteroid field. The course would take them past more of the massive constructed objects and toward what appeared to be a space station, larger than any city on Earth. As they followed the beacon deeper into the field, Lisa continued her scans and made discoveries that challenged everything she thought she knew about human history. "Commander, I am detecting technology that is thousands of years old, but it is still functioning perfectly. The power sources these installations are using should not be possible with any science we know about." "Are you saying this technology is more advanced than what we have on Earth?" "Much more advanced. The energy output from some of these installations is greater than what Earth's entire power grid produces, and they have been running continuously for millennia without any maintenance that I can detect." Sam Parker had been monitoring communications from the asteroid field and had discovered something that made the mystery even deeper. "Commander, I have been listening to internal communications between the installations in this field. They are using human languages but dialects that I do not recognize. Some of the words sound like ancient Earth languages that died out thousands of years ago." Jake was beginning to understand that they had stumbled into something much larger than a simple mystery about alien star charts. This asteroid field was not just a hidden human installation. It was evidence of a human civilization that had existed in space for far longer than anyone on Earth realized. "Lisa, is there any way these installations could have been built by colonists from Earth?" he asked. "No, Commander. The oldest human space colonies are less than 200 years old, but some of this technology shows signs of being operational for at least 10,000 years. Either our history books are wrong, or these people are not descended from Earth humans." The navigation beacon led them to a massive space station that was built into the largest asteroid in the field. As they approached, docking bays opened in the station's surface, and automated systems guided the USS Horizon to a berth that seemed designed specifically for their type of ship. "How do they know what kind of docking systems we use?" Amy asked as the station's equipment connected perfectly with their ship. "Because we designed our docking systems based on their technology," came the voice of Coordinator Chen through their communication system. "Your people reverse-engineered much of your space technology from artifacts we left behind on Earth. In a sense, you have been using our blueprints all along." Jake realized that they were about to learn secrets that would change humanity's understanding of its place in the universe, but he was also beginning to worry about what responsibilities might come with that knowledge. Coordinator Chen, before we dock, I need to know something. Are we in any danger here? Not from us, Commander Martinez. We are your cousins, your distant family. But there are reasons why this region of space has been hidden from the younger civilizations. There are threats in the universe that your people are not yet ready to face. We have been standing guard against those threats for thousands of years. What kind of threats? The kind that entire civilizations hide from, Commander. The kind that make species like the Zephyrians refuse to draw maps of this region. The kind that will return someday, and when they do, both branches of humanity will need to stand together. As the USS Horizon completed its docking sequence, Jake realized that his simple investigation had led them to the discovery of an ancient human civilization that had been protecting the galaxy from dangers he could not yet imagine. The question now was whether Earth's humanity was ready to learn the truth about why the galaxy's maps ended at human territory. The answers were waiting for them inside the ancient station, along with responsibilities that would change the course of human history forever. The docking bay of the ancient station was enormous. Commander Jake Martinez and his team walked through corridors that could have held their entire ship with room to spare. Everything around them was built on a scale that seemed designed for a civilization much larger and more advanced than anything on Earth. Coordinator Alex Chen was waiting for them at the entrance to the main station. He looked human, but there was something different about him that Jake could not quite identify. His skin had a slight metallic shimmer, and his eyes seemed to hold knowledge that was far older than his apparent age. "Welcome to Deep Watch Station Alpha," Chen said, extending his hand in a gesture that was perfectly familiar. "I apologize for the mysterious nature of our communication, but there are protocols we must follow when making first contact with Earth humans." Dr. Lisa Harper was scanning everything around them with her portable equipment. "Coordinator Chen, our instruments are detecting technology that should be impossible. How long has this station been operational?" "This particular station has been active for approximately 12,000 years," Chen replied as he led them through the corridors. "But the Deep Watch network has existed in various forms for much longer than that." Lieutenant Sam Parker stopped, walking. 12,000 years? But humans only developed spaceflight 2 centuries ago. Chen smiled, but there was sadness in his expression. Earth humans only developed spaceflight 2 centuries ago. Our branch of humanity has been traveling between the stars for much longer. They entered a large circular room filled with displays showing star charts and sensor readings from across the galaxy. Chief Amy Foster recognized some of the navigation data, but much of it showed regions of space that were not on any Earth charts. "This is our primary monitoring center," Chen explained. "From here we track movements and activities across this entire arm of the galaxy. We have been watching and protecting younger civilizations for thousands of years." Jake studied the displays around them. "Protecting them from what?" Chen's expression became serious. "From the Devourers, Commander Martinez. Entities that come from the dark spaces between galaxies. They consume entire civilizations, leaving nothing behind but empty systems and dead worlds." Lisa looked up from her equipment. "That sounds like something from a science fiction story." "I wish it were fiction, Dr. Harper. But we have fought them before, and we have seen what they can do. The last time they came to this galaxy, they destroyed dozens of civilizations before we could stop them." Chen activated one of the large displays, and images appeared showing star systems that had been stripped of all life. Planets reduced to bare rock, stars dimmed to almost nothing, entire regions of space that looked like they had been drained of energy. "This happened approximately 15,000 years ago," Chen continued. "Our ancestors realized that the Devourers follow a pattern. They move through galaxies in cycles, consuming everything they encounter, but they can be stopped if you know how to fight them." Amy studied the star charts on the displays. "How do you fight something like that?" "With patience, preparation, and sacrifice," Chen replied. "Our ancestors developed technologies that could trap the Devourers in pocket dimensions, preventing them from consuming entire star systems. But the technology requires constant monitoring and maintenance. Jake was beginning to understand the scope of what they had discovered. The monitoring stations that Lieutenant Parker detected. They are part of your defense network. Exactly. We have installations throughout this region of space, all connected in a network designed to detect and contain the Devourers when they return. Because, Commander, they are returning. Chen activated another display, this one showing recent sensor readings from the edge of the galaxy. Strange distortions in space-time were moving inward from the galactic rim, and entire star systems were going silent as they passed. We detected the first signs 3 months ago, Chen said. The Devourers have reached the outer edge of the galaxy again. Based on their previous patterns, they will arrive in this region within the next few years. Sam Parker was studying the sensor data with growing alarm. How many of them are there? We estimate several thousand individual entities, plus their supporting swarms. More than enough to consume every inhabited world in the galaxy if they are not stopped. Lisa sat down heavily in one of the chairs around the monitoring center. This is why the alien civilizations avoid human territory. They know about the Devourers, and they know that you are here fighting them. The older civilizations remember the last incursion, Chen confirmed. They know that this region of space is dangerous, but they also know that we are the ones standing guard. They stay away to avoid interfering with our preparations. Jake looked around at the advanced technology surrounding them. Why did you not contact Earth directly? Why keep this secret from our government? Chen's expression became sad again. Because Earth humans were never supposed to be involved in this fight, Commander. When our ancestors realized that the Devourers were coming, they sent colony ships to distant worlds that would be outside the battle zone. Earth was one of those safe refuge worlds. You mean Earth humans are descendants of your people? In a sense, yes. But you developed differently than we expected. Instead of remaining safely hidden, you developed spaceflight and began expanding, back toward the danger zone. Now both branches of humanity are in the path of the Devourers. Amy looked at the star charts showing the approaching threat. What do you need from us? How can Earth help in this fight? Chen smiled for the first time since they had met him. That is exactly what we hoped you would ask, Chief Foster. Your people have developed capabilities that we lost long ago. You have learned to work together despite your differences. You have adapted to survive in hostile environments. You have the flexibility and creativity that our advanced civilization has forgotten. He activated a new display showing the Deep Watch defense network. Our technology can trap the Devourers, but it requires coordination across thousands of installations. We have become too specialized, too focused on our ancient duties. We need fresh perspectives and new approaches. Jake studied the defense network diagrams. What exactly are you asking us to do? We need Earth to help us upgrade and coordinate the defense network. Your computer systems, your communication technologies, your tactical doctrines. Combined with our ancient knowledge and advanced weapons, we might be able to stop the Devourers permanently this time. Lisa was scanning the defense network with her equipment. This is incredible technology, but I can see what you mean. It is like a machine that has been running the same program for thousands of years. It needs new input to adapt to changing conditions. Sam looked up from the communication displays he had been studying. Coordinator Chen, what happens if we fail? What happens if the Devourers cannot be stopped? Chen was quiet for a long moment before answering. Then every world in this galaxy becomes like the dead systems you saw in our records. The Devourers will consume everything and move on to the next galaxy, leaving nothing behind but darkness. Jake realized that his simple investigation had led them to a discovery that would change not just human history, but the fate of every living being in the galaxy. The responsibility was overwhelming, but he also understood that they had no choice. How much time do we have? He asked. Based on their current rate of approach, approximately 18 months before they reach the outer defense perimeter. We need to begin preparations immediately. Amy was studying the technical specifications of the defense network. We will need to bring Earth's best scientists and engineers here. This kind of coordination will require resources that only our combined civilizations can provide. Chen nodded. We have been preparing for this moment for thousands of years. waiting for Earth humans to develop enough to help us. The question now is whether your people will be ready to accept the responsibility of defending the galaxy." Jake looked around at his crew, seeing the same determination in their faces that he felt in his own heart. They had come looking for answers about mysterious signals and blank star charts. Instead, they had found their destiny as guardians of everything they held dear. The ancient humans had been standing watch alone for millennia. Now it was time for both branches of humanity to stand together against the darkness that was coming for them all. 18 months later, Commander Jake Martinez stood in the command center of Deep Watch Station Alpha, watching displays that showed the greatest military operation in galactic history. Ships from Earth worked alongside ancient human vessels. Their crews trained together in preparation for the battle that would determine the fate of every living world. The integration had not been easy. When Jake returned to Earth with news of the ancient human civilization and the approaching devourers, many government officials had refused to believe him. It took direct communication from Coordinator Alex Chen and demonstrations of ancient technology to convince Earth's leaders that the threat was real. Dr. Lisa Harper had spent most of those 18 months working with ancient human scientists to understand devourer biology and behavior. What they learned was terrifying. The devourers were not just destroying civilizations for resources or territory. They fed on life energy itself, growing stronger with each world they consumed. "Commander Martinez," came the voice of Lieutenant Sam Parker from his communication station. "We are receiving reports from the outer sensor network. The devourers have reached the detection perimeter." Jake activated the main display, and images appeared showing the approaching threat. The devourers looked like massive clouds of darkness, moving through space, but the sensors revealed their true nature. Each cloud contained thousands of individual entities, some the size of asteroids, others as large as moons. "How many are we detecting?" Jake asked. "The initial count shows approximately 8,000 individual devourers in the main swarm," Sam replied. "That is more than we expected based on historical records." Chief Amy Foster was coordinating with navigation teams across the defense network. "All stations report ready, Commander. The trap network is fully charged and standing by for activation." The plan they had developed over the past months was complex but necessary. The ancient humans had built their defense network to channel the devourers into specific areas of space where they could be trapped in pocket dimensions. But the system required precise timing and coordination across hundreds of installations. Earth's contribution had been to modernize the communication and control systems, allowing real-time coordination that the ancient network had never possessed. Human tactical doctrines had also provided new strategies for managing such a large-scale operation. "Coordinator Chen, what is the status of the hibernation facilities?" Jake asked. Chen looked up from his station across the command center. "All sleeper installations have been secured and moved to safe dimensions. If we fail here, at least some of our people will survive to try again in the future." The hibernation facilities had been one of the most shocking discoveries of the past year. The ancient humans had not just built a defense network, they had also prepared backup plans, including the ability to place entire populations in suspended animation until the devourer threat passed. Lisa approached Jake's station with her latest analysis reports. "Commander, I have finished studying the devourer approach patterns. They are not moving randomly. They are being directed by something more intelligent than we thought." "What do you mean?" "The individual devourers are like cells in a larger organism, but there is something coordinating their movements, something that learns and adapts. The historical records show that each time they return, they use different tactics." Jake studied Lisa's data with growing concern. "Are you saying our defense network might not work?" "I am saying we need to be ready to adapt our plans. The devourers are not just mindless destroyers. They are intelligent enough to recognize and counter defensive strategies." Sam Parker looked up from his communication station with urgency in his voice. "Commander, the outer stations are reporting contact. The devourers have entered the defense perimeter." The main display changed to show real-time feeds from sensor stations throughout the network. The approaching devourer swarm had spread out into multiple groups, each one heading toward a different section of the defensive grid. They are trying to divide our attention, Amy observed. Instead of attacking in one massive group, they are forcing us to defend multiple areas at once. Jake activated the fleet communication system. All stations, this is command. Begin implementation of Defense Protocol Alpha. Channel the enemy groups toward trap zones 2, 5, and 7. The response was immediate. Across thousands of installations, ancient human technology activated alongside Earth systems. Energy barriers appeared in space, creating corridors that would force the Devourers toward the prepared trap areas. But as the Devourers encountered the first barriers, they did something unexpected. Instead of following the channels as previous incursions had done, they began to merge together, combining their individual energies into larger, more powerful entities. That is not in any of the historical records, Chen said with alarm. They have never shown this level of coordination before. Lisa was studying the sensor readings as the Devourers transformed. They are adapting in real time. Whatever intelligence controls them has learned from previous battles and developed new strategies. The merged Devourers were now large enough to simply break through the energy barriers that were supposed to channel them. Worse, they seemed to be feeding on the energy of the barriers themselves, growing stronger as they destroyed the defenses. All stations, switch to Protocol Beta, Jake ordered. Begin direct engagement with defensive weapons. Ancient human weapons systems that had been dormant for thousands of years came online across the network. Beams of energy that could vaporize. Asteroids struck the approaching Devourers, but the effect was limited. The creatures absorbed most of the energy, using it to grow even larger. Commander, the weapons are not working, Amy reported. If anything, we are making them stronger. Jake realized that all their careful planning had been based on fighting the Devourers as they had behaved in the past. But these entities had evolved, becoming more intelligent and adaptable. They needed a completely new approach. Lisa, is there anything in your research that might help us? Lisa was frantically reviewing her data when her expression suddenly changed. Commander, what if we have been thinking about this wrong? The Devourers feed on energy, but what if we give them energy they cannot digest? What do you mean? Human life energy is different from other species. We carry genetic patterns from both ancient and modern human civilizations. What if that combination creates something the Devourers cannot process? Jake understood immediately. You want to use ourselves as bait. Not bait. A poison pill. If we can get the Devourers to attempt feeding on combined human life energy, it might disrupt their ability to function. Chen looked horrified. Dr. Harper, you are suggesting that we sacrifice human lives to stop them. I am suggesting that we use our unique nature as a weapon, Lisa replied. But it would require volunteers, people willing to expose themselves to Devourer feeding attempts. Jake made the hardest decision of his life. Send out a call for volunteers. Explain the situation and ask for people willing to serve as living weapons against the Devourers. The response was overwhelming. Within hours, thousands of humans from both Earth and the ancient colonies had volunteered to participate in the desperate plan. They would position themselves in small ships along the Devourers' approach routes, broadcasting life energy signatures designed to attract the creatures. As the first volunteer ships moved into position, Jake watched the displays with a mixture of pride and terror. These people were risking everything based on a theory that might not work. The lead Devourer group encountered the first volunteer ship and immediately moved to feed on its human crew. But as soon as the feeding process began, something went wrong. The Devourer began to convulse and break apart, its dark energy form becoming unstable. It is working, Sam reported with excitement. The Devourer is rejecting the human life energy. It cannot process it. One by one, the volunteer ships made contact with Devourer entities. Each time the same thing happened. The creatures would attempt to feed, then become violently ill and break apart. The effect spread through the swarm as damaged Devourers infected others with the incompatible energy. Within 6 hours, the entire Devourer swarm had been neutralized. The entities that had threatened to consume the galaxy were destroyed by the very thing they tried to feed on. Jake stood in the command center as reports came in from across the network. The threat was over, but the cost had been high. Many of the volunteers had not survived the feeding attempts. They had given their lives to save countless worlds. "Commander," Chen said quietly, "your people have done something remarkable. You have not just stopped the Devourers. You have shown us that the combination of ancient wisdom and modern courage can overcome any threat." Jake looked around at his crew, seeing exhaustion and grief, but also determination. They had discovered that humanity's role in the galaxy was not to hide from dangers, but to stand guard against them. "What happens now?" Amy asked. Jake activated the communication system to address the entire network. "Now we continue the watch, both branches of humanity, working together to protect the galaxy. The maps may end at human territory, but our responsibility extends much further."